Hello.
Hello, hello.
First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin our episode, we want to wish our animator a very happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm
Oh,
going to sing a birthday song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kelsey. Happy birthday to you.
thank you. Out in the words of Roger Smith, I was just here sitting under the light in my most prettiest dress, but thank you.
We wanted to share with you all kind of a break from our usual schedule of Bless the Hearts and One Tree Hill before we, catch up. So we wanted to try to give you all a little bit of something different with our first foray into Andy Griffith territory with the Pickle story.
With doing in the last couple of episodes, I'm also drawing a new title card that's Andy Griffith based for this episode.
Oh God, Barney's face is just it's everything.
I'm sorry, that's why I was late. I just got so into the art zone. And I was trying to work on Barney's face, and then I realized I'm 20 minutes
Back
late.
in my day, I was into the chalk zone.
Well, Rudy's got the
Rudy
chalk.
does indeed have the chalk. Oh, that was such a classic show. But honestly, I've seen this episode a couple of times, and all the stuff, the behind the scenes stories that I've heard about. I'm gonna butcher her last name, Frances Bevier or Bevier.
Oh gosh, I've been calling her Beaver this whole time.
Well,
I'm so sorry, ma'am. Rest in
the
peace.
actress that plays Aunt B, I kind of the behind the scenes stories kind of got to me. Oh, I don't know. It's a good episode, but it was kind of like the behind the scenes stories really influenced my taste of the episode.
What were the stories? I did see one vaguely that Ronnie Howard did not like this episode.
Probably because he had to eat a lot of pickles. I guess some of the behind the scenes stories involved her just being an all around not pleasant person when it came to.
I think it's also because they have an idea of what women are like, especially being, I guess, I'm going to say not ignorant, but just not really reading the room very well. And everyone kind of trying to shield them from any negativity. There's even like one with like the two sisters ended up being moonshiners. They had to try and deal with the politics of the barbershop, where they wondered, what can we tell the sheriff about all our competition? Well, we can't go into the barbershop. That's for men only. Hello?
I'm still here. I'm looking up.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking up info. Hold on one moment. I'm looking up.
Oh gosh, I thought I lost you for a moment. Or another one that I knew made Mayberry, like the 1960s version of Springfield from The Simpsons. They shunned a manicurist who was Barbara Eden before I Dream of Jeannie came on, because she decided she wanted to set up work in the barbershop, and that the men even talked to her or even held their hand while she gave them a manicure. And then they shunned the men for looking at another woman. It was, oh my gosh. I thought this is the friendliest place. You guys are weird. That's probably the humor. And I have another surprise for you. I finally bit the bullet and I emailed a potential sponsor. Don't know if they'll email us back. But I
Oh.
emailed the Mount Olive Pickle Company to see if they might possibly sponsor us for this episode.
I looked up and it says that she did not enjoy practical jokes or coarse language on the show, and that she was the
When did they have?
member of the cast to win an Emmy Award for the show, aside from Don Knotts clearing the supporting actor in a comedy series Emmy for each year that he was on the show.
I think he should have written the show all the way to the end.
Yeah, because it was just different without Barney there. With him, with it being in color, it could have been good. But at least he and Andy still stayed friends, and I still think that, and this may be a hot take when it comes to Andy Griffith, that in the Return to Mayberry's TV special from the 1980s, that Barney should have been sheriff instead of being the deputy again, because he really cared about the town, and he needed respect, and people just ran all over him.
He did. I feel bad because he left to become a sheriff somewhere
And then he
else.
didn't. He
And
worked
then
in the fingerprint department in Raleigh.
I think it's because some other people realize he doesn't have the emotional maturity to really be a sheriff. I'm not knocking on Barney. He knows the probably because
He knows the law, like
I
he has the book knowledge of the law, but when it comes to practical application or common sense, he doesn't have it like Andy has it.
exactly that's what I mean. He honestly he has to have a one bullet rule. He will shoot his someone's foot off.
But I don't know if you heard this part, but I have been watching a lot of like a little bit more classic TV. And I've seen that episode with Barbara Eden, and I mentioned Barbara Eden because I've been watching more of I Dream of Jeannie a little bit. It's not a bad little program.
It's pretty good. She's there because she wants to be there, not because Tony actually wished her out of a bottle.
But come to think of it, like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie are kind of like antithesis of each other because they both are women with like magical powers, but one is more independent and one is more codependent, with both kind of the prime male figures in their lives, you know, not allowing them to do what they
Dealing with
want, but they're fine with them doing what they want. If they want to use their powers, great. But if they don't, that's also good. So it's kind of like two halves of the same coin, but or yin yang sort of. They're the same but different at the same time.
I get what you mean. Magic could be like a stand-in for feminism, where like Daryl wants like sorry, not Darren. Oh my gosh, I pulled Indora. Darren wants Samantha to be like an old-fashioned housewife, and she tried it. She didn't really like it. She's still gonna use magic. Her family uses magic, and he learns to roll with the
And
punches.
and
Uh,
Jeannie is, she does what she wants. She wants to make Tony happy because that is what she was accustomed to with being a genie. And Tony's like, you don't have to do this. I don't want you to use your magic because magic just causes a lot of trouble. So don't use it, please. But it saves the day in the end.
should we probably explain to our viewers who aren't North Carolina natives or haven't seen Andy Griffith Show what Andy Griffith is?
Yes, because based on the charts and figures, also shout out to our listeners in Germany and overseas. Thank you for listening to the show.
Hello, hello.
Guten Tag. Hello. I don't know any other foreign words for hello.
Privet.
Privet. Konnichiwa.
Hola.
But the plot of the Andy Griffith Show revolves around a small town in 1960s America within North Carolina in the fictional town of Mayberry, where single sheriff father Andy, his son Opie, his aunt Bee, who stays with them and is kind of like a matriarch figure within the Taylor household. And uh, Andy's I'm sorry, Andy's deputy Barney navigate the the day to day comings and goings of small town life, crime, and attitudes within within Southern culture within the United States. Because some people, like the episode, for instance, where the farmer wouldn't was very adamant about not getting shots, and like Andy convinced him, the shots are good for you. Dealing with the darlings that come down from the mountains. Um, Dealing with Barney, because Barney he has good ideas, but
He does not
he does not
execute them well.
execute them well at all. He thinks with his head, while Andy both thinks with his head and his heart. It's a balance of the two. Um, and just navigating like small town life and small town, uh, and life lessons as well as lessons with the law.
There's also a lot of lessons about, well, not really lessons, but storytelling based on what does the community want versus what I want, and trying to keep everyone happy, even if it is at a detriment to personal growth. So, say like they had a town meeting where they want every year they go to the singing competition. Everyone's really jazzed about it because it's good for town morale. The only thing is, no one's good at singing, or they have like the worst singers forward, and the mayor points out it's an embarrassment to the town, but everyone still wants to go. So they trick him in order to let them go. And as they're leaving, they start singing and playing these terrible instruments, and he realizes he's been had.
Or when he tells the choir director that he can sing a certain vocal range, but he is just a horrible singer. Barney is very sensitive as well, so it's about also navigating people's emotions and without hurting their feelings, trying to make everyone as happy as possible within the set of circumstances that the story allows.
The most egregious one is literally a story where someone's saying no, or I didn't get a phone call, called Dinner at 8, where Aunt B leaves for the night. Andy, for some reason, Goober is at his house. He gets a couple phone calls, gets them mixed up, and then he now goes to 3 different spaghetti dinners, including one for a very mad, very pissed off Helen, because he was supposed to go to her dinner all along, and she's making him eat this dinner with her uncle. And everyone has the same dinner recipe they apparently got from the same New York chef. And no one's ever heard of oregano before.
Oh, God.
They think it's this top secret ingredient. It's oregano.
The 60s were a very different time. And you also have famous side characters like Otis the drunk, who, I'm going to spoil it for people. In The Return to Mayberry, he's overcame his alcoholism, and he is now the local ice cream man, because the big joke with Otis was that he was drunk all the time.
He was deputized in order to come in on Saturday nights, walk in, and lock himself up in the jail cell.
But he did have 2 good moments.
I think
one where his family came to town, and he told his brother that, you don't need to embarrass me, because his brother was basically the Otis of his hometown. And
after being played up as the pride of their family.
And the episode where Otis has historical ancestors that did great deeds for
for the Confederate side, but either way, he had significance.
Yeah, it was historical significance, and Otis was sober. He was really,
and he got a kiss from his wife.
And his wife, who, if you've seen the episode where his family comes to town, they don't have a really good relationship because of Otis's alcoholism. But you also have other characters, like I
No.
mentioned, the Darlings, which is a group of uh, mountain citizens that play a variety of instruments, and the daughter Charlene often goes after Andy, or well,
Who he acknowledges is like 15
in
years
the
younger than him.
introductory episode when they come down from the mountain, they
To ironically pick up her
yep,
fiance.
and who they never mention again after the episode with Ernest E. Bass.
They mentioned him. Well, they tried to mention him, but Ernest T keeps breaking their windows.
Well, they don't even mention him in the Return to Mayberry thing, and even though they have a daughter together,
Yeah, no, we don't see her. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he left and took the baby or if he passed away in between those times. I
they
don't know. Why was Ernest living with her?
I don't know, but he recognized that once Charlene was married, that he couldn't court her anymore, which character development.
Maybe he had a new
Or
girl, but the only way he wanted to court her is by getting into the army to get the
and then
uniform and not actually doing
they decided to
service.
break every
And when
window in town
Andy,
because he was mad. Or
because Andy rightfully pointed out to the officer, look, do not let this man in. He is erratic. He is not fit for any services. You won't even get him out of town before he goes crazy on
but my
you.
dad's favorite character, Ernest T. Bass, which I guess he is also a mountain citizen, but they acknowledge that he is uneducated, but he is very straightforward about what he wants in the wrongest ways possible. Because when he encounters a girl, he's like, "I want that girl." When he's in the army, I want to go in the army, and but he also get Andy helps him get an education. Andy tries to help him put him on the right path, even though Barney says he's a nut. Um,
He doesn't chew his cabbage
you
twice.
also have Helen, the local school teacher, who comes in and is Andy's eye of his. I'm rushing too
The
much.
second
It
eye
is
of his
his crush, girlfriend, and then later wife.
and I love it because originally Barney did
Because
not
she
like
could
her.
cook.
Um, I know. I think there's like a deeper seated reason because reading between the lines, she moved here from up north so she could be a Yankee. I love Blanche Devereaux from the Golden Girls, and he said, "Get her out of here. I don't care. We're going to get him some local girls." I have never seen Barney as hostile to anyone else but Helen, and it goes on for like a few episodes, including when they had like a shooting contest, and he was upset that she was just as good of a shooter as Andy, so she can do the masculine stuff as well as some of the feminine. And he said, "Oh no, you don't want her to
Was that
outclass
Helen?
you,"
I thought that was
because he's.
one of Thelma Lou's cousins.
I think that was. It was either. I think it was Helen. I don't think it was Ellie.
It was a blonde woman. I remember that.
Oh,
But you also have Ellie, who is the oldest daughter from Father Knows Best, and they never say where she went. And I know I hate to be a stickler for continuity, but I'd like to know what happens to people when they just switch up on you. No offense to Helen, but I want to know where people go when they just disappear. Because she was also Andy's early
something
girlfriend.
tells me she might have left town after that lady who was upset about the placebo pills might have sent her some
I could see
threats.
that happening.
And Helen actually came down, and all the students hated her because they were so behind on their schoolwork. She had to give them extra work to catch them up.
Whew. Oh God, what were some other?
And I like, wait, aren't you guys in like the first grade? How are you
Oh,
behind?
there's Thelma Lou, who is Barney's.
Thelma, Barney's girl, who he clearly thought she would wait for him forever.
And he weirdly
And
he met her at a funeral because he mentions that when his 5 year anniversary with the sheriff's department comes up. Yeah, like he goes through it with Andy. It's like, oh, do you know what day it is? Andy's like, no. And he's like, well, is it your anniversary with Thelma Lou? And it's like, no, because I met her at a funeral.
Whose
It was
funeral?
for some woman. They mentioned her by name.
Oh my lord! I love how dark that is.
There's Gomer Pyle, who is the local kind of mechanic over at Wally's filling station, and he's a simple-minded guy, but he's well-meaning, and that's kind of further established in his.
He's one of the few men in Mayberry that can cook by himself
And he gets his own
competently.
spinoff where he shows more of his kind of nature and how he brings his kind-hearted ways to a bigger world outside of North Carolina, because he gets on everybody's nerves in the Marine Corps because he just he's nice about it instead of trying to use it as a power play or for selfish means. He's just Gomer. His
I know, and the way he actually got there was interesting because it was another one of those spots that he only got um to the Marines because he wanted to be there, not because he actually had a skill. And um he kept saying, I want to get in because my daddy got in, not because he personally wanted to get in for his own reasons. And he just failed every test. So Andy, taking pity on him, told the recruiter, okay, look, he's secretly awesome. I know he's going to look like he's really, really, really bad, but he's secretly awesome. And the recruiter saw him fail at every test, but for some reason they passed him, and that's why he has the spinoff. And it's my theory that since basic training isn't supposed to last 4 seasons or so, as long as the show went, I think he just kept failing, so he has to keep getting
to
retrained.
keep the show going because he's a private first class for years, and that's like a 6 season show. But you also have Goober, who he kind of wears a Jughead crown from the old River Archie comics,
I know he cut up his dad's fedora or something.
and he does a really good impression of Cary Grant and James Cagney.
And eventually, we have Floyd, the barber with one chair,
who fights people based on an episode where Barney tries to close a case from years ago. You also have the Fun Girls.
They have so many
Claire
recipes.
Edwards, who I'm going to say it, she's a flat out bitch.
Yes, she is.
She
Oh
is
my
a
gosh, thank you.
bitch. Oh my god.
It's like on B. You don't need to
Oh,
hang
that
out with this
episode
woman.
with the flower. Oh my god, she is horrible. And the episode.
Or even when like she tried to get on B to go out with someone that she had no interest in, but she said you don't want to be a burden to Andy and Opie as they
Or
get
the
older,
episode where
right?
they're doing
It's like,
the uniforms after the preacher speaks and they're trying to reform the town band. And she's like, well, I told him there wouldn't be any uniforms. It's like, you shut up. Oh my God.
or even when we're like on B after she and someone else tried to butter her up to go on this trip to Mexico that Aunt B won. They're mad now because they have to share the ticket by paying for half, and they apparently had a bad time, and they're blaming Aunt B for it. And it's like, forget you two. Aunt B doesn't deserve this. Y'all didn't need to go on this trip anyway.
She kind of reminds me of Rosie from Hazel. You know who
Oh
I'm talking
gosh,
about because they. Oh God,
I do.
they're both they're like frenemies
It's
almost.
like just because they're in your sphere, they don't have to be your friend.
Um, who
Oh, there's Howard Sprague. I know I'm gonna say his last name wrong. Sprague. Uh, the ultimate mama's boy. You just want to rescue him. You don't pity him. You want to rescue
Yep,
him.
he has a very tall hairdo. He's a very tall gentleman.
Yes, he does, and he almost got married to his girlfriend on a whim, and then they decided not to because they rushed into this too fast, and she wanted him to shave his mustache, and he's not going to do that because it makes him like
He
Walt
does
Disney.
look like Walt Disney. I'm trying to think of other characters in the show that like are established within Mayberry before any of the spinoffs or anything like that, because you got Mayberry RFD, which isn't about Andy, but another single father that works for the Mayberry Reserve Fire Department. And it's kind of the same continuation of Andy Griffith, but just with Vinton from Mama's Family playing it serious.
I love that the show focuses on single dads and shows how endearing and loving they are. I literally saw Andy in a different episode with Barney kiss Opie goodbye and enjoy his reading time with Opie, and was very upset that Barney sent all these women in to court him because it was
Oh,
interrupting his
I
special
saw
time with
that
Opie.
episode, and it was just they all came to see Thelma Lou, and Barney was trying to set him up, and I think that's the episode where Barney was like, "I don't like Helen. I don't like her at all."
It was, and he said Barney kept saying, "I'm doing this so you'll have someone to take care of Opie, so they'll go to the school conference instead of you." And instead, it's like all these women, they don't care. They're not even here for Andy.
But that's the majority of that's a good bit of the cast. Other characters show up around town because you have. I'm trying to think of the older man that Barney tried to teach him how to be a deputy
And
at one
something.
point.
Uh
Yeah, you know who
oh
I'm talking
gosh,
about?
I'm at a loss for words. I'm hoping I'm not getting him mixed up with someone else from All in the Family.
Um, I'm looking it up. I'm gonna see who.
And there's always guest stars every week, and of course there are musical numbers by Andy Griffith and anyone else. Aunt B's known to be a wonderful cook, except for this episode. She's normally known to make anything, including Chinese food.
Which I don't know why, but it just
And
seems like a weird kind of combination that. And I don't think they show this episode a lot anymore, but where Aunt B helps to open up a Chinese restaurant. For some reason, a
I
show
think
like
I
that
don't
within
know.
a rural country setting, just Chinese food in a rural country setting, they go together, but it's weird. It's a weird placement.
I honestly did not know about that episode until I guess listeners, I got Aunt B cookbook. I got into the Andy Griffith Show again after Andy Griffith unfortunately passed away, and I opened it up and they had all these menu options for the dishes, and one of them happened to be for Aunt B's Chinese restaurant. And I thought, wait, she opened a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant? Because I know they keep talking about one in Mount Pilot that puts umbrellas in their fried rice.
That's also very weird.
Yeah, I don't know where they're
And
going with
within
that.
Mayberry, they also use quite a number of the same actors as criminals, as the Fun Girls, which are two women that break a lot of speeding laws and kind of ruin Barney and Andy's romance with their main girlfriends on the show. And
Basically, the women will assume that it's your fault if these two other women come in and try to flirt
but they
with you.
use quite a number of the same actors because recurring actors from Gomer Pyle USMC, one of the sergeants is on Andy Griffith quite a lot as the person who wants to beat up Barney, the army recruiter, criminal that Barney lets go by accident. They changed the mayor quite a bit on the show. Looking through Wikipedia.
What about Ben Weaver? He's like a recurring villain.
Yep, he's kind of. Is that the really older Yep, my really old landlord.
He's the one that's the shop owner. They're trying to say that he's lonely, but he seems more like a misanthrope,
But
to
he's
be
in
honest.
everybody's business, and he's trying to think that because he has a lot of money that the law works in his favor, but it doesn't.
No, the only one that I really had actual sympathy for, maybe for the traveling salesman, because he's not good at actually selling anything. So Barney and Andy take pity on him. And then we mention, hey, he's been selling and loitering in front of my shop, right? Okay, we'll set him up with a stand. Here's a folding table. That's still loitering and illegal. Okay, we'll put him on this corner and we'll give him an umbrella. Now he has a shop. And I guess they taught him like reverse psychology, or like the entire community came around to buy his stuff even if they don't need it.
Except when Ben Weaver lowers all the prices on his stuff and kind of drives everyone away from the man's stand.
And then he ends up hiring the man.
Because Andy knows how to play people.
He really does. He's a nice manipulator. I even saw Uncle Joe. He scared Uncle Joe away with a shotgun when he realizes he's taking advantage of Aunt B. Well, Aunt Joe from Petticoat Junction.
Oh, I just started watching Petticoat Junction.
I had to do a double take because I thought, I know those teeth and I know that voice. I know him. He's known for playing lazy people that for some reason people love and their families love, but they can never pinpoint why they love him.
But kind of like what we were talking about earlier with Andy Griffith, it's trying to spare people's feelings all around, and that's where the theme really comes through in this episode, because Aunt B makes the worst pickles that you can imagine based on the reactions of Barney, Andy, and Opie. But Andy also wants to help out other people because how much it means to them and trying to do the right thing all around.
Like, we want a balance between how the maker feels versus how the people that they're making the things for feel, even if they don't like the product. I guess it's like those old jokes about how you hate how your grandma or your aunt makes you an ugly Christmas sweater, but now how ugly Christmas sweaters are all the rage.
Or how to have parties about ugly Christmas sweaters.
Yes, I'm going to assume this is kind of how this goes down. But for Aunt B, I honestly think she cannot read subtext at all. Just, oh no, and Barty and Andy are just too polite to tell her that she has made one bad thing in her life.
Because she's like Barney, she's sensitive, so don't want to hurt Aunt B's feelings.
That's just how we roll. And I think the one that I watched on Sundance Channel, they cut an introductory scene. I think with like Clara and Aunt B talking about pickles, and that's how Aunt B gets into her pickle kick. You might have to start this episode off with the description.
With describing what happens at the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
If I can be honest, when you messaged me about that, I was like, oh, I need to go and record the episode. And then I turned it on TV Land, and I got halfway through it when I realized, oh crap, I need to start recording it. I walked in a little bit too late.
Okay. I guess from memory, I just remember like Clara and Aunt B talking about the pickles, and Clara, so far, she's not being a bitch. She's just surveying the pickles, and Aunt B mentions, well, I'm not really good at it. So she at least acknowledges, yes, I don't really have a talent for it. And she brings some to like Clara to taste, because Clara's going on about her like prize winning pickles. And Clara's saying, okay, you need more cloves, you need more spices, you definitely need to boil these longer.
Basically being judgmental as all hell, because Clara's a bitch.
Constructive criticism's more how I put it, but to his their own. And Aunt B decided, I'm gonna make my pickles. And the next scene, where I guess my episode started, Aunt B is coming in as what I like to call Little Blue Riding Bee, because I always imagine her in like this blue dress and a red cape, and she always brings the guys lunch in a picnic basket instead of brown bagging it. Well, at least those guys brown bagging it. So she brings a lot of food for them for lunch.
And they taste like kerosene because Barney mentions that, and the judges and towards the end of the episode, they also mention that it accurately smells like kerosene pickles.
They have to wash their hands.
But was it Clara that wins every year? I thought it was a Mrs. Johnson. I thought
It's in this episode, her last name is Johnson, and then afterwards it becomes Edwards. I think my theory is Edwards is her
I
maiden
thought it
name.
was a different lady, and I thought, I don't have to hate Clara this time. But I'm because
Well, I guess we're gonna follow along with that. I honestly think that in this one, Aunt B and Clara were the chess masters later on in the episode. I mean, Clara's still a bitch. I don't think she won on taste alone. Let's get
But you
that
also
clear.
go into kind of Clara's
Without
backstory because she reveals to Andy that her husband had passed away and that this is one of the things she looks forward to the most.
a pickle contest every year. I'm sorry, Clara. You need more in your life to look forward to.
It's not
And
a
I'm
bad
not
thing to
knocking
look
your dead
forward to,
husband.
but there's a lot of other stuff.
And are you going door to door with your pickles? Because that's a lot of pickles in there, along with that scrapbook that you're also telling the story to everyone. It just, is everyone bringing Andy and Barney pickles today, or are we just
I feel
feeding
bad
the whole
for
community?
Barney's stomach in this episode.
I feel bad for Opie. He mentioned he got sick from Aunt B's pickles in the past.
But with how much they bring Andy and Barney, with how much Aunt B brings Andy and Barney the pickles for lunch every day, they eventually decide that Aunt B can't enter this contest. So Andy goes about switching the pickles that Aunt B had already made for the contest, designated for the contest, and switching them with store bought pickles, which is cheating.
And well, yes, but I guess cheating for them because they did not think she was going to enter the contest. It seems like this was just a home thing, and honestly, it seems like she's just bringing them half a jar of pickles every day. There's no saving them. She wants the guys in OP to binge them, and I don't know why she brought them on.
I guess because it would look fancy. It'd be more professional to bring them on a plate, more dignified or civilized to bring them on a plate and be like, "Oh, here, I brought you a plate of pickles." But I think before Clara comes and tells Andy about, the like her own ties to the pickle contest, that Aunt B reveals, "Oh, I'm going to enter the contest." I believe that's how the episode goes.
It's like,
isn't it?
oh, so I guess we should probably back it up to explain exactly what's going on narrative wise. So Aunt B brought the pickles to the courthouse, and
Barney gets sick.
Barney are reminiscing. Okay, why does she have to keep making these? This is clearly not our first rodeo. And they claim that I guess the women in the town believe that homemade stuff has to be better than store bought stuff. And her pickles are so toxic, they killed a fly. It should be brought as evidence in a pickle intervention to stop making pickles for Aunt B.
But after Andy decides to switch out the pickles to spare Aunt B's feelings, Aunt B comes by the courthouse, and so does Clara.
Well, we have to back it up a bit more, because Andy's wondering, okay, this is how we get our plan into motion. We have to replace her pickles since we're all supposed to just eat them. Only the three of us. Since if only the three of them suffer, that's fine. We just replace the pickles with store-bought pickles, which I hypothesize are Mount Olive pickles.
And no one will get hurt because it's not for a contest. It's Fairly Odd Parents rules.
And you know that the pickles are so bad because when they brought Opie into the scheme, Andy had to justify it to Opie and to himself on why they're technically lying to Aunt B. And Opie's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Because you don't want me to get sick like I did last time eating these pickles, which makes me think either Aunt B didn't realize he got sick or I don't think she's ever actually tasted her product. So what they actually did is put all the pickles in a carpet bag, and Barney is in charge of disposing of the evidence. Barney is good for disposing evidence, but he's bad at alibis. Aunt B caught him leaving, and he couldn't explain why he has a giant bag very well. He could have just said, I'm leaving to go on a trip and coming back. But he wouldn't leave. His feet couldn't leave.
He's just a bad liar all around. He has part of a plan, but not the common sense to fill in the details or the gaps.
And what was his plan to get rid of the pickles, do you presume? Was he going to, A, throw it into the lake with the giant Mayberry sea monster? B, throw them into a bonfire? C, give them to people on the highway, potentially getting them sick? Or D, eat them all himself?
I'm going to go with C.
Yep, it was C.
Yay, I was right.
That was a terrible plan.
Well, I guess this also explains why Barney didn't become sheriff and return to Mayberry.
Yeah, the people leaving Mayberry, he stopped them in the police car in his police uniform so they can identify him because he's one of only 2 policemen in town, and said, because you were driving so well, you're getting this free jar of pickles.
And even when Barney is in disguises later on in the series, they still know it's Barney.
Oh, come on, man. That's bad.
He's just being Barney.
Oh, baby, no. And so we see them next at dinner, and they're eating pickles at dinner. Pickles at lunch, pickles at dinner. I'm assuming they're having egg salad and chicken salad, too, to use up all those pickles. They don't savor the pickles.
They go through... Oh, God, I feel bad for the prop master that had to go out and get all these pickles.
Gosh, I'm imagining their imaginary stomachs because they're eating at least 2 to 3 pickles. Not even cut in halves, viewers, or quarters, just a whole cucumber pickles.
Like you would get from the supermarket or at a burger restaurant. They're just those large pickles.
And Aunt B notices, oh, hey, yeah, you guys are really liking my pickles now. Normally you don't eat them. So now she can low-key read the room. And Barney and Andy try to change the subject by eating more pickles that are store-bought. I think my theory is that she knows they aren't hers. I guess maybe she ate them and knows they're not homemade. And she said, this was going to be my last year that I made them. But like you said, she's going to enter the contest with these pickles, which is now a problem.
But if that's the case, then, and she knows that those aren't her pickles, because didn't Aunt B eat some of the pickles that were on the plate?
Oh, yeah, she did. I think she re-entered the contest to test Barney and Andy's honesty, to make them squirm, and she also wanted to kind of upstage Clara.
Aunt B's an even colder, harder bitch. Jesus.
Well, I think she was also offended that they didn't like her pickles. It's one of those things where if someone loves you and they made it for you, you're supposed to enjoy it and like it no matter what. One of those lessons that's actually being deconstructed or at least questioned, especially during like the 2010s and now. Because I mean, even learning now, okay, you don't have to eat everything on your plate if you don't like it. You don't have to do this. And you can't force people to like something.
As long as you're honest with them, they won't get nobody's feelings will get hurt. But Andy and Barney dragged it out.
Exactly. So now they're in a pickle.
Was that a pun?
I think so. I even wrote that down as a better name for the story than the pickle story.
It's like Friends. They could have called it the Pickle episode.
So even in like the next scene, Barney and Andy are contemplating, oh my gosh, what do we do? I mean, we can't let her enter with those pickles. And she's not going to make any more.
And so Andy and Barney decide that they're going to go with the store-bought method of switching it out to spare Aunt B's feelings to continue the charade.
Yes, and they giggle because they thought it's not going to hurt anybody if she wins with these. But it's just her. It's isolated to just her. Yeah, it'd be funny if she won with store-bought pickles. Like, nobody will notice.
But then Andy decides to get a conscience after Clara Johnson, which I guess is
AKA the guilt trip.
Yep, and she, for some reason, carries around her scrapbook of prize-winning ribbons in her purse. Kelsey, do you carry around the awards you've won in your purse or in your car, so that when you meet people, you can be like, oh yeah, and speaking of which, 8 years ago, I won this baking contest, and you just hold out a little gold cupcake, and it's like, oh my God.
Heck no. Honestly, it's either at my parents' house or I randomly find this letter from Archie Comics in my room while I'm cleaning up. I definitely not. I think she was on a campaign, a pickle campaign, to garner sympathy and to find out whoever is the judges, because I think they might have been hidden.
Because Andy could have been a judge after he was elected as the judge for the Miss Mayberry pageant.
And I think maybe Aunt B's guilt sent her saying, okay, this is what Andy and Barney are doing. I told them I entered the contest. They haven't fessed up to me. So could you, like, on your rounds, kind of extra sway their opinion on what I need to do? Thanks.
And that's when Andy, Barney, and Opie decide to do the highlight of the episode, which is eat every single reserve of pickles.
Oh, no, I'm not eating them. No, I'm going to hide them.
No, that's what Andy, Barney, and Opie do. They get all the pickles out from the pantry, and they eat every single one of them, so that no store-bought pickles will be used, and that Clara Johnson can win the contest.
Because it's not just Claire, it's to give everyone in the contest a fair chance, because she made it clear, this is the one thing I have to look forward to all year since my husband passed away. I am so good at pickles. Which I'm not downplaying how much this clearly means a lot to her. She may be milking it for sympathy, but it still means a lot to her, and this could be her coping mechanism. And I'm trying not to be a heartless person. But it's also not fair to the other contestants that we don't get to see, and we don't get to see their campaigns. But I would not eat all 8 quarts of pickles between the 3 of them. I would just hide them in the woods somewhere.
Rather than eat every single one of them.
Yeah, because they don't have to be refrigerated.
But comedy's comedy, so they did what they did, and they have Aunt B's weird silhouette head watching them with full smiles as they eat every pickle.
It's like, we have to do it for her. and then we do it again.
Remember,
do it for her.
remember the experimental
Something else Steven Universe, and then we do it again.
Remember the experimental film from college where that girl's eyes cut open?
Yeah.
This kind of feels like that, but with pickles. It's that weird experimental film, and I can only imagine that this is what Sergei Eisenstein imagined when he helped develop editing techniques. That it would lead to the pickle episode.
I don't know what it is with me. I kept staring at her teeth throughout the entire vignette because she has like the cute overbite. I just wish like they kept the same thing where she just keeps nodding her head towards the boys as they bite into the pickle, instead they have her at different angles.
Oh, she has them wrapped around her finger. That part is just so creepy, but a little funny at the same time.
What if like she was watching from like another room? She's got like a peephole into whatever room they're eating the pickles in, and she's watching them eat the whole thing.
Oh, Norman Bates style. It's like
like those deconstruction of how like housewives have like nothing to do after they cook and feed their family, so she's doing something to get a kick.
Or that haunted house episode where she's watching through the painting.
Yes.
Oh, I wouldn't put it past Aunt B.
So their plan is that she has to eat. They have decided to eat all the store-bought pickles, so she'll be forced to make more kerosene cucumbers. And so then I guess the next day after these guys have, I guess, eaten all the cucumbers and I guess puked their guts out, Aunt B, who serves everyone a jar of pickles per meal, is surprised when they run out, and she can't serve them at lunch.
And she's like, "Oh, I guess I'll just have to make some more."
Yes. Oh, and I'll put in all these. I'll go crazy with all these different spices and and all these other things that I can't remember.
You can see Barney, even though the show is black and white, you can see his face turn green.
Oh, Barney. And then we actually get to the fair after Barney and Andy have patted themselves on the back, thinking we've done a good thing. We've given her hope, and we've given the other contestants a winning chance. We saved a pickle contest.
Yep, and there's 11 contestants, so they could have... Clara manipulated a lot of people.
She really did. She took this way too seriously.
You don't F around with Pickles and Mayberry. That should have been the title of the episode. Give it a Grand Theft Auto title. You don't F around with Pickles and Mayberry.
Now I want to put that on a shirt.
You feel free. It's all yours, Kelsey.
Yes. With like Clara Edwards' face on it.
Or Aunt B's weird silhouette.
Yeah.
I'll just put the weird silhouette head on the back.
I have to ask, Aunt B's fried chicken versus Clara's pickles in a food showdown.
Probably Aunt B's by a little bit.
Clara will blow her top.
Well, I guess it's an unfair fight because one's like a side dish and one's like a main dish.
I know, it's just they're two iconic foods. And we get to the fair, and apparently there's like a huge crowd of people there for the pickles and the, I guess, canning competition.
I'd say at least 20 people in that small, quiet little tent. Because you mainly hear the noises from outside, and so many people are at this fair. Yet people are observing the pickle contest.
And Clara's talking to all of them. Like, what do you have to talk to them about? And did you bring a date?
She knows.
Who is that man in the fedora?
That she keeps nodding to. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm here. I'm hearing everything.
And he's into it, and he keeps puckering his lips like, ooh, pickles.
That extra took his job way too seriously.
He was getting some money today. Maybe he got some free pickles. And snooty pickle judges should be a meme.
Just that thought or talk bubble of kerosene is like, yep. Because they go through each and every pickle.
Picking up the pickles with the cocktail forks and inspecting them by feel. And even Claire said, "That's my neighbor's jar." And I thought, oh, we were supposed to keep this anonymous, you bitch.
Claire Edwards is just a straight up bitch. Not like Aunt B, where it's like, oh yeah, you can admire her cunning. No, she's just a straight up bitch, all around, 360 degrees, all day, every day. She's just a bitch. And you can hear her, and she's not quiet about it. It's like, oh, that's my neighbor's jar. When it's like really
we
quiet.
know who you... Is that Clara Johnson? Isn't she next to the sheriff? Oh my gosh, she does live next to the sheriff. That means that's Aunt B's jar. Oh crap. Aunt B, you got to go back to Virginia for a while.
But she ended up beating she ended up beating Clara because Clara decided to gain a conscience in the flower episode and let Aunt B win after Opie's dumb mistake.
I have to watch it. I'm not entirely sure. I think like he played football and tackled the rose.
Yeah, and it just crushed it to where it looked so bad.
I think King of the Hill, I think they had an episode that was kind of a homage to that, like a couple years later, well, 20 or 30 years later, but with a garden gnome.
Yeah, I remember that episode, and whatchamacallit, Hank was fighting with this woman at a gardening center over a gnome for Bobby.
Well, it was Peggy's because she just wanted something to show for her skills and something to show in the garden because it's usually Hank's lawn. And at an estate sale, she got this gnome, and Hank hates the gnome. He thinks it's creepy, and Bobby was playing in the yard. He claimed he was playing Secret Serviceman, and he bumped into the gnome and broke its ear off. He brought it to Hank to fix it, and Hank, instead of fixing it and in the long term making his wife happy, said, we can't fix this. We have to go bury this in the woods. We can't tell your mother. And then I'm going to run over twice.
Oh, God. I need to watch this episode on Hulu. Jesus.
I know. And then Peggy thinks it's been kidnapped, and she's breaking down crying. And then her friend, who she got into the gnome community, I guess. So her friend said, oh, no, I'm calling the cops. Don't worry, Mama, whatever my name is in charge now. And turns out it's like a whole rash of thefts and vandalisms with the gnomes. So she's even freaking out even more. And then Hank and Bobby comes forward and explains, okay, I'm sorry. Look, I broke the gnome. Or I think Hank came forward with it, but she correctly guesses, okay, Bobby did this. I'm going to harshly punish you. And Hank sticks up for him. And Bobby, while still grounded, tells Hank, look, you can get a replacement at this other store. Just go get it. And she chooses to believe Hank did this of his own accord, that Bobby had nothing to do with it. It was not the best Peggy Hill episode.
Or the episode where she kidnaps a kid from Mexico by accident.
Yeah, no, that was not, no, Peggy. I think after that, I was glad she decided to work for the newspaper.
I need to rewatch it. Are they still doing, is there any news with the type of reboot that they're doing with the show?
I've just heard rumors. I have not actually seen it. Every time I see it, I just hear people say, well, now they can't do it because Lucky and Luann voice actors are gone.
They could always move, as much as a disrespect as it would be, they could always say that they moved away.
They could. Just do not put them back in a trailer or an RV. If they do that, it's going to be a huge disrespect.
Yep. Let them have a nice house.
Somewhere where Gracie can run around and make friends. Also, it turns out Hank and Peggy, at first their dream retirement was to get an RV and travel around the United States, and I love that. And then later on, because of some other scheme that Peggy cooked up, now they decided they're going to get duo motorcycles and travel around the country.
But if you'd like to listen to all or watch all these episodes that we've been referring to for the classic American animated sitcom King of the Hill, get yourself a Hulu subscription or get yourself the physical copy. That way, whenever it's taken off a particular streaming service, you will always have it just in case. But takeaways from the episode.
Well, let's see. Blink and you miss it, but Aunt B's pickle brine is very oddly colored, like deep and opaque.
Even the black and
you
white.
Can't even see even in the black and white, you can't even see, you can barely see the pickles in the jar. Even the judges, when they smell it, they have to wash their hands immediately after handling her pickles. So I don't know if it's a canning thing with her or improperly washed jars or what, but it seems like she's clearly making some type of gas whenever she makes her stuff.
Did she make that recipe on her own, or was it like a Rachel Green situation where she used a recipe, but pages of the recipe got stuck together and she just went along with it?
We honestly don't know. We've never actually seen her make the pickles. We know that Clara gave her pointers, but it seems like she has her own recipe in her head about how it's supposed to go. And we even see that her jar compared to the other ones in the contest, and it does not look right. And her senses must be shot, or she's really bad at canning because of that cut scene later on where Andy's apparently late for work by 3 minutes. Barney comes by, they're about to have breakfast, and their marmalade smells funky, like ammonia. Marmalade is not supposed to smell like ammonia. When your marmalade smells like cleaning product, it's bad.
When any food you eat smells like cleaning product, it's bad.
Turns out Aunt B decides she's going to make some marmalade, and she, besides also making like a double batch of pickles, which Barney and Andy have decided, okay, now we definitely have to get used to them and eat them now, instead of just telling Aunt B the truth. The marmalade just smells so bad. She's made a double batch of that. They just decided we got to get rid of this, throw it out.
But big takeaways from the episode is it's always good to have your family's intentions in mind and not to hurt them. Like Barney and Andy could have done with telling Aunt B the truth about her pickles. But sometimes with situations like that, it's better to tell the truth because it could get worse as it goes along. The further you don't tell someone the truth about stuff like that, it could get worse.
From the official cookbook, which ironically I got from my house where I'm recording right now, and I left at my apartment, so I can't look at it directly. But it seems like the Aunt B pickles are super spicy Western pickles, and they have a lot of peppers in it, which could account for why they aren't that good. And it doesn't seem like they really were boiled or soaked for a very long time, so they're supposed to be very hard crunch.
And it could have also resulted in some of that spicy flavor after sitting a while with no refrigeration, just turning to that sort of sour taste. But I don't know cooking, so
I think so. They also posted one that I'm going to assume is Clara's actual pickle recipe with a little bit of sugar in it, but without as many peppers. It definitely with the allspice that she said that she was going to do.
Also, Claire Edwards is a stone cold bitch, and Aunt B can get on her level pretty well, pretty quick.
Yeah, this is one of the few times Claire reflects on her dead husband instead of being a matchmaker or going out courting.
Or being passive aggressive and a frenemy to Aunt B.
Just why, Clara? Why? This town is not This town is big enough for the both of you.
Where would you put this as one of your favorite episodes, or in your episode ranking of Andy Griffith?
I would put this in my top
Really?
3.
What are some of your other top 3?
Well, one that I kept watching over and over again are the, I guess when the Darlings came to get Andy's help, actually a team up between the Darlings and Andy to get Ernest T. Bass off their back. Proved him, okay, yes, Charlene is married. And then they had to get her remarried by a preacher to leave him alone. And then, of course, I don't know, the Darlings are my favorite. Another one is when they kidnap Aunt B, and then she and Andy turn around and turn it into etiquette boot camp. And they just said, okay, look, we don't want this woman anymore. Stop beating me to death with a spoon.
I hadn't seen that one, except more frequently within the last month than I had before. But I don't think I ever seen that episode except towards the end of last year.
It comes on, like, I guess at least once a month. It's just that it was after Charlene, I guess her husband moved out of the Darling house. Don't ask me how. So it's one of those men don't know how to cook.
They never clarify anything.
They never do. So Andy, being neighborly, invites them down from the mountains to come to Aunt B's house. To Aunt B's dinner, and she randomly made them pot roast, a big old meal with potatoes and stuff, made sure everyone was fed. She read a poem about a rose, and because she was actually nice and hospitable to Mr. Darling, he decided, okay, I'm going to ask you to marry me. And she said, no, I'm not. And then he came back the next day and kidnapped her.
Because that's what you do when a woman says no to marrying you. You kidnap her.
And Opie freaks out because he has to tell his dad, oh my gosh, Aunt B is gone. He said, okay, go to Clara's house. She'll give you lunch, but she feeds me like prunes and grits. I don't know, something like weird old lady food. And he said, look, in the army, they fed us like hardtack and water. And he said, okay, fine, I'll go. Just go get Aunt B, please. And Andy goes on a one-man rescue mission to get Aunt B from the cabin.
I'm trying to remember some of my favorite episodes. Huh.
If they ever did a reboot of it, I would like them to bring in Juanita.
Finally reveal who Juanita is.
Yes, I think, like, because I know that she works at the diner, and I want to see. I know that it would be like a tactless thing, but I want to see her and Thelma Lou kind of square off and eventually become friends.
And then kind of trash talk Barney a little bit to where he's a little uneasy, but he's like, okay, I'm gonna go along with this.
Yes, and then like they trade fudge recipes or something.
I hope that
until like Thelma Lou finds out, oh, Barney's never sang to me over the phone. Barney.
And he's trying to figure out how to make everybody happy. That would be an interesting episode. I'm trying to think of some good episodes. I guess some of the episodes where like they actually solve crimes. Like the episode where Andy and Barney find that the person is at the trailer park. and Andy drives him away, or Barney drives him away. Yeah.
In the trailer? Oh, yeah, that one's good. Or the one with the 3 female convicts, and they are holed up in the in someone's cabin, and they kidnap, I think, Floyd and Barney.
Is just making Barney's life a living hell. Although they're kidnapped together, it's just like, well, aren't you going to do it? And it's like, Floyd, shut up.
And the girl said, he reminds me of my boyfriend. Didn't you kill him? Well, yeah, but I still miss him.
And that was one of the fun girls that I mentioned when they're about the recasting. God, what were some other good episodes? Oh, for any viewers out there who have seen, I'm sorry, one of my producers just walked in and he may or may not have an announcement. We don't know. Poppy, you good? You good?
Hi,
Yeah,
Poppy.
he's just staring. What's wrong, Papa? But if you have a favorite episode of Andy Griffith that you may or may not have seen, depending on if you get access to it wherever you listen to this podcast, then feel free to let us know. Email us at nctvpodcast@gmail.com. Have we checked the emails to see if people have emailed us?
Oh gosh, not recently.
I think.
I'm going to say not since last week.
Okay, so no one has emailed us yet.
No, but please do. We love your fan mail, any fan art that you may have, and we also have a Ko-fi account.
Yeah, so please feel free to get in touch with us, and we'd love to hear y'all's feedback. Hear y'all's favorite episodes. We hope 2021 is a good year for y'all, and hope that y'all continue to stay safe. And we hope you enjoy. Hope you have enjoyed this little breakaway from the norm of what we've been doing lately, and we'll try to do some more Andy Griffith episodes in the future. If you have one you'd like to recommend, please feel free to get in contact with us. Please continue to listen to the show and support us. Well, we thank you for doing that. And happy birthday to Kelsey.
Thank you. Thank you all for celebrating my birthday by listening to this podcast, but really celebrating the both of us for being TV nerds.
Hey, nothing wrong with being TV nerds. We're TV
Nothing
fanatics. We're not TV nerds.
Yes, and we will run this ship.
But continue to wear a mask. Anything you'd like to say, Kelsey?
Well, I guess aesthetic wise, I love that everyone's using 1900s to 1920s candlestick phones for some odd reason. And I can't really think of what else to say design wise. Eventually, we will need to take that auditory trip up to where Andy Griffith Show actually was inspired.
Do take that trip.
And rest in peace to most of the cast.
Have you ever been there?
I have not.
Nice. Pretty nice little small town area. I had lunch there at the Jiffy Lunch. We're going, and it's gonna be great. We're gonna do an auditory.
I'm looking.
We're gonna do a little
to
auditory tour. It's gonna be awesome.
Yes, and I tried to, even for research for this episode, I tried to talk to original viewers of the episode. So my parents, they had no idea what I was talking about the marmalade scene at the end, because I just did not remember it.
I don't think I remember the marmalade scene.
Me neither. I think they cut the first one to make room for the last one, and maybe they just always cut it in syndication.
Because they also do not show as many color episodes as they should. Just not at all. On TV land, at least.
Some of them they're like diamonds in the rough. They have more bad than good, but diamonds in the rough. Also, I guess watching some of the older ones, I noticed her taste in men. She likes to take care of people who take care of her house.
I guess there's probably some sort of psychological term for it, but she helps those who can. There's got to be a term for it.
She likes her handyman handy. and she will feed you lemonade and cookies and sandwiches up front, and you will be sociable. And Andy will have to stand over her and convince her we don't need a handyman. Don't let him come in this house.
Or you will get your elbow smacked like Briscoe Darling.
Because Uncle Joe scammed Andy into doing his chores for him, and Aunt B didn't even notice.
She was blinded by the romance.
Blinded by the light.
I'm just trying to think of more episodes. But that's a.
I know people are going to be mad if we don't mention the bird episode where Opie, which The Simpsons also remade, where Opie shot a bird with a slingshot or something.
He took care of the birds.
Andy made sure that he took care of the babies.
That is some good child acting from Ron Howard. Jesus Christ, that is some good acting.
I know, he's an amazing actor, and then turned it into directing. And as far as I know, he did not have any problems. He didn't go through the Disney child star syndrome.
Nope. Or even some TV stars from that era, because some definitely had some problems from that time period. Happy Days was pretty good. They've been showing that on MeTV, and that I've been catching episodes of that, and that's pretty good.
It is very good. Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley.
Laverne and Shirley's the best. Rest in peace, Squiggy, because he recently passed away.
And Laverne. And unfortunately, Dawn Wells. We lost Marianne
as well. And I saw that Ginger posted or talked to the New York Post after Marianne had died. I'll send you the article over Instagram, but she was just making comments or something. I didn't read the whole thing.
Because I know she's like the last, ironically, this person that hated the show the most. She's like the last living cast member.
And we also wish Larry King a healthy recovery, because it recently came out yesterday that he has coronavirus. Yeah, and he's being hospitalized at the moment.
Oh my gosh, no.
I'll send the link to that over Instagram as well. Okay, I sent both. But thank you all for tuning in with us today. And if you'd like to hear more Andy Griffith recaps and discussions, please feel free to let us know.
Suggest it to us in the email. Use that email.
Please use the email. We're also going to talk to Technical T off air about some episodes that we could cover. But we want to thank you for your time. Please continue to stay safe. And hopefully we can make 2021, knock on wood, a really good year.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. But and happy birthday, Kelsey. Have you made any recipes with that book, with the cutting board and the book that I got you for Christmas?
No. Well, I can't. So I'm at my parents' house, and the kitchen is mostly my mother's domain. I can still cook here, but small things. I'm savoring it for when I get back home, and I'm relishing the first recipes that I get to make with it. Viewers, you have no idea what an awesome friend this guy is. The actor got me 2 days after Christmas.
I thought it was
early.
4 days after Christmas, but the United States Post Office or Postal Service came in clutch.
He got me a custom cut large cutting board with my name engraved on it, with Animator and Chef, and on the bottom, Kelsey and Joseph, Friends Forever 2020, and a chef's hat in it. I love it. And a Bob's Burgers freaking cookbook. It is still my favorite gift out of everything that I've gotten.
I'm really glad you like it, Kelsey.
You made my Chris. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying not to cry.
2021's going to be lit with a lot of stuff to cook.
Yes, because I just learned where to buy cooking wine. My cooking game's going up. I'm not drinking it.
But we want to thank you all for tuning in, and happy birthday once again, Kelsey.
Thank you. And we're going to celebrate yours when it comes up.
Oh, boy. The evil laughter should scare me.
Oh, no, don't. It shouldn't.
I'm just joking.
Be calm. Be very, very calm.
When you say it like that, I don't feel calm. I feel... but thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate y'all listening. Please continue to do so and stay safe. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.